It was about 3 weeks ago. I was working my night shifts at the small-town hospital. The place had a creepy feel, especially at night. Fluorescent lights flickered now and then, and the long hallways echoed with silence. I picked up the night shifts after my husband lost his job, and I needed the money. On my third night, I was checking on patients and writing notes when I heard it. A child's laughter echoed in the empty hallway. It was soft, like a memory trying to come back. I thought maybe my tired mind was playing tricks. I shook my head. It couldn't be real. As the night dragged on, the laughter came back. This time it was more unsettling. I walked down the corridor, flashlight in hand, my heart racing. The laughter felt close, but when I looked, there was nothing. Sweat formed on my brow. I tried to focus on my job, but unease sat heavy in my stomach. On the next night, things grew weirder. I walked into a patient's room and spotted a toy, a colorful ball on the floor. I was sure it hadn't been there when I left earlier. I picked it up and glanced around. Everything felt off. I put it back down, unsure how I could have missed it. Later, while restocking supplies, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, but the corridor was empty. My stomach twisted. I squeezed my eyes shut. I was just tired. That had to be it. "Come on, Jenna. You're just being paranoid," I muttered under my breath. But the third night was the worst. The laughter morphed into whispers, familiar yet chilling. I leaned against the wall, feeling cold sweat trickle down my back. The whispers echoed around me, calling my name. Panic gripped me. I glanced around, checking the shadows. Nothing. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then I saw movement. Something darted past the corner of my eye. I turned, but all I found was a flickering light above. I closed my eyes, and the laughter returned. More haunting. I couldn't take it. I needed to figure out what was happening. I moved closer to the source of the sound. Then I heard a child's voice softly say, "Why are you here?" Panic coursed through me. I spun around, heart racing, but nobody was there. I was alone, yet it felt like someone was right beside me. I stumbled back, breathless. My eyes darted down the hallway, searching for answers in the silence. I wanted to run, but something held me there. I was being watched, but by whom? Why? The feeling was so heavy, so real. The laughter bubbled up again, echoing ever closer. I clenched my fists, my mind racing. I had to get out of there. But it felt like the hospital was closing in on me. I ran toward the exit, and that's when I heard it again. The laughter and the voice. "Why are you here?" It pierced through the night like a knife. I didn't look back. I just kept running. I never went back to that hospital, and I still can't explain what happened that night. The following days were a blur. I avoided the hospital and my shifts had to be covered. I told my supervisor I wasn't feeling well, but inside, I was just scared. The laughter, the whispers, they haunted me. Every creak in my house felt threatening. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was wrong, that I was being stalked by an unseen presence. One evening, I decided to visit Claire, a close friend who worked at the hospital with me. She had been my confidant through many nights of just listening and sharing our fears. If anyone could help me make sense of this, it was her. As I walked into her apartment, a wave of relief washed over me. It felt warm and normal, just like our friendship. "Hey, I haven't seen you in forever," Claire exclaimed, wrapping her arms around me. I held on for a moment longer than usual, seeking comfort. We settled on the couch with mugs of hot tea and I shared everything, the laughter, the whispers, the toy ball. Claire listened intently. "Maybe the hospital is just getting to you. It's a stressful place," she suggested, tucking her hair behind her ear. "It's more than that. It felt so real, Claire. I can still hear the voice." I felt my chest tighten again. She regarded me closely and finally said, "You know, I've heard stories about that hospital. They say it's haunted. I never believed it, but..." Her voice trailed off. "Haunted? By what?" I laughed nervously. I didn't want to believe that. "Some kid who died there years ago. They say you can hear him laughing sometimes." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I could hardly breathe. "Stop it," I said, my voice shaking. "You can't really believe that." She shrugged. "I mean, I don't know, it's just what people say. You should probably just stay away from there, though." That night, after saying goodbye to Claire, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I kept imagining the child's laughter ringing in my ears, the shadows in the hospital, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I was scared and confused. Why would that happen to me? But somehow, the idea of a ghost fascinated me. What if it really was a spirit trying to communicate? I felt a mix of dread and morbid curiosity. The next day, I decided to face my fears. I printed out articles about the hospital's history. I needed answers, whether I liked them or not. As I read, something caught my eye. Child's death due to illness in 1989. Last seen in the children's ward, laughing, playing with toys. That's when I saw it. The image of a young boy on the screen. My heart dropped. He looked just like the figure I had seen dart past me that night, just a blur in the corner of my eye. I sat back, the realization hitting me hard. There was something to Claire's stories. My thoughts spiraled. Was he reaching out to me? Then, as if the universe was responding to my fears, my phone buzzed. An unknown number appeared on the screen. I hesitated, my heart racing again. Should I answer? With shaky hands, I swiped to answer. "Hello?" Silence hung on the line. My skin prickled in unease. Then I heard it. A soft, whispering voice, barely audible, echoed through the receiver. "Why are you here?" I felt my throat go dry. The voice sent chills down my spine. "Who is this?" I managed to ask, but the line went dead. I stared at my phone, still buzzing in my hand as if it were alive. I was angry. I wanted to throw it against the wall but settled for tossing it onto the couch instead. What was happening to me? One moment I was ready to confront my fears, and the next I was teetering on the edge of panic. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I needed to think logically. Perhaps it was just a prank. But as the night wore on, my thoughts spiraled. I couldn't shake the feeling that the call wasn't random. My mind flashed back to the stories Claire had shared. What if the boy was trying to communicate? Fueled by determination and fear, I gathered my courage. I needed to return to the hospital, but this time, not as a nurse, but as someone trying to understand. I reached for my car keys, my heart racing again at the thought. The moon hung brightly above when I arrived at the hospital. The familiar building loomed before me, washed in pale light. It felt different now. More sinister. Stepping inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, and an uneasy tension filled the air. I had hoped familiarity would calm me, but instead, it heightened my anxiety. I walked through the empty halls, my footsteps echoing softly. The children's ward was quiet, but I could almost hear faint sounds of laughter in my mind, the same laughter that chilled my bones. I stopped outside the door, my breathing shallow. I placed my hand on the doorknob, hesitated, then stepped inside. Inside the ward, everything was still. Old toys were scattered across the floor, a forgotten legacy of happier times. I moved towards the corner where I had first glimpsed the boy. Suddenly, the air turned icy. I could feel it, the presence of something intangible watching me. Then, without warning, a soft laughter erupted behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but nothing was there. I swallowed hard, my body tingling with both fear and thrill. My eyes darted around, searching for what I hoped wouldn't be there. That's when I saw it. A ball rolling slowly across the floor, stopping right at my feet. It was the same toy ball I'd read about in the articles, the one the boy had supposedly played with. I bent down, trembling, my fingers brushing the cool surface. "Why are you here?" I whispered into the empty room, half expecting an answer. Instead, a flicker caught my attention from the far corner of my vision, just like before. I turned my head to see a shadow dart away, vanishing into thin air. My breath hitched. I backed away slowly, heart racing. I wanted to run but felt glued to the floor. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Someone was in the hospital with me. I could feel it. But when I turned to search again, the hallway remained empty. I stumbled backwards, nearly tripping over the scattered toys. The laughter echoed again, louder this time, almost mocking. As I bolted for the exit, fear engulfed me. I could hardly get my feet under me fast enough. I needed to leave before whatever was there came back. But the door wouldn't budge. It felt like a weight was pressing down, holding it shut. Panic set in. The laughter crescendoed around me, vibrating through the walls. I pounded on the door, desperate. Then the whispers returned, clearer this time, as if answering my silent terror. "Stay with me," I screamed, the sound lost amidst the laughter. In that moment, I realized I had crossed a line I can't uncross. I was no longer just a bystander in this haunting tale. I was part of it. I jolted awake, my heart pounding in a rhythm far too erratic for comfort. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a stark reminder of where I was. My surroundings felt distorted, as if I were in a dream that had blurred the lines of reality. It took me a moment to remember the laughter, the shadow darting away, and the whispers that still echoed in my mind. I was still in the children's ward. The shadows in the corners seemed thicker now, watching me with unseen eyes. I pushed myself off the floor, my muscles aching from the tension. Was I really that exhausted, or was it something else? I shook my head to clear the fog and turned to leave the room. As I reached for the door, it swung open on its own. I stumbled back, heart racing again. But this time, I forced myself to step through. I had to get to the bottom of this. I needed answers. Moving cautiously down the hall, my mind drifted to the boy. What had happened to him? I thought of the articles Claire had shared, the pain rippling through those who had cared for him. The laughter echoed again, now more distant, almost playful. I pressed my palms against my ears, trying to block it out, but then I heard another sound, a soft, dragging noise behind me. I turned, ready to confront whatever was there, but only the empty corridor greeted me. Just when I thought I was losing it, a single word pierced the silence. "Help!" This time, the sound was clear. It came from the room across the hall, the room where the boy had spent his last days. My throat felt tight, and any remnants of bravery began to disappear. Still, I felt an overwhelming urge to answer it. I stepped inside, the door creaking as I pushed it open. The room was dimly lit, a solitary nightlight casting shadows around the bed. And there, on the floor, lay a small teddy bear, its fur worn and frayed. I knelt to pick it up, and as I did, memories flooded back, snippets of laughter, snippets of pain. The boy had loved that bear. Suddenly the temperature dropped significantly. A chill swept through me, and I could hear his voice again, clearer this time. "Please, don't leave." I turned to look at the bed and my breath caught in my throat. The sheets rustled, as if an unseen presence was shifting within them. I stood frozen, my fight-or-flight instincts warring within me. I felt drawn into the room, unable to back away. The laughter returned, but it wasn't mocking anymore. It was tinged with sadness, an echo of farewell. In that moment I made a decision. I couldn't run. I had to stay. Nerves steeled, I approached the bed. This time, I wasn't here to escape. I was here to understand. But as I reached towards the sheets, everything went dark. A scream bubbled up from deep within me, merging with the laughter, and I was left in a void. The whispers returned, frantic and desperate now. "Stay with me." A feeling of suffocation enveloped me, and I thought I might never breathe again. Just as quickly the darkness lifted, leaving me gasping for air. I looked around, my surroundings shifting yet again. The boy was standing before me, the sad smile barely visible in the dim light, and behind him a shadow loomed, a darker presence that watched with hungry eyes. I hadn't just stumbled into a haunting, I had awakened something, and now there was no turning back. I stood there, paralyzed, caught between fear and compassion. The boy's figure flickered, shifting slightly as if the light itself struggled to hold on to him. I wanted to reach out, to reassure him, but the shadow loomed larger, darkening the space around us. "Help," he whispered again, a plea laced with desperation. I didn't know what kind of help he needed. My heart raced as I fought the instinct to flee. I couldn't abandon him. Not now. Searching for courage, I asked, "What do you want me to do?" My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. The boy's sad smile faltered, and I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes. "Don't let it take me." As the words left his mouth, the shadow stirred, creeping closer. It rippled like ink in water, swirling and flickering. I took a step back, instinctively wanting to escape its grasp. But the boy stood firm, his gaze locked on the darkness behind him. In a sudden burst, the shadow lunged forward. I stumbled back and instinctively reached toward the boy. I could feel a pull, an energy, as the boy reached out to me. Just as our fingertips brushed, a silence fell over the room, and the shadow froze, as if contemplating my next move. I realized I had to make a choice. "You're not alone," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I'm here. I won't let it take you." The boy's smile returned, a flicker of hope illuminating his small face. Then, all at once, the air around us thickened. I felt a heaviness press against my chest, but I refused to let go. I focused on the warmth in my heart, the desire to protect him. Suddenly, everything shifted again. The room twisted, and with it the boy's figure began to fade. "You have to find the truth," he said, his voice becoming muffled. "It needs to be set free." "What truth?" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. But his words hung in the air, intangible and unreachable. Then darkness engulfed me once more, pulling me away from the boy, from his haunting presence. I gasped as I was thrust back into the dimly lit children's ward. The shadows loomed closer, whispering secrets in a language I couldn't understand. I blinked, disoriented, the echo of his voice fading. I clutched the teddy bear tightly, a lifeline in my confusion. "What truth?" I muttered to myself. My pulse raced as new determination gripped me. I needed to uncover whatever had kept him bound to this place. I couldn't let fear control me anymore. As I steadied my breath, I remembered the articles Claire had shared. There had been a rumor about the boy, hints of something sinister hiding beneath the surface. But where did I begin? My thoughts spiraled into a frenzy. Just then, a sound pulled me back, a soft scratching noise coming from the door I had originally entered. With a deep inhale, I approached the door, my heart pounding. I reached for the handle, feeling the cool metal against my palm. With one swift motion, I swung the door open. A chill swept across my skin, and an icy breeze rushed past me. That's when I saw it, an envelope resting on the floor, clearly out of place in the sterile environment. It bore a name that sent a jolt of shock through me. I picked it up, knowing that whatever was inside might change everything. As I tore it open, a sense of urgency surged through me. I needed to know what secrets it held. But as I began to read, I felt a presence behind me. The shadow was back, and this time it didn't intend to be subtle. I spun around, the envelope slipping from my fingers and fluttering to the ground. There it was, the shadow, thicker and more menacing than before. It swirled around me like a predator cloaked in darkness, filling the air with a palpable tension. I could barely breathe. "Get away from me!" I shouted, though my voice cracked under the weight of fear. I took a step back, fumbling to find the door. The curse of the boy's plea echoed in my mind. He'd trusted me, and I couldn't let him down. But the darkness pressed forward, a tangible force drawing closer. I could hear something faint, like whispers, murmuring secrets just out of reach. I clutched the teddy bear tighter, channeling whatever strength I could muster. "I won't let you take him," I yelled. The shadow paused, as if considering my resolve. The darkness hovered, and I noticed something strange. Within it, images flickered. Faces, scenes, fragments from the boy's past. I shifted my gaze back to the envelope lying on the floor. I had to know. Maybe it held the answers I needed. As I bent down to pick it up, I glanced behind me. The shadow remained, swirling slowly, but its presence felt different now. Less aggressive, almost hesitant. "Who are you?" I whispered, searching for a sign. The shadow didn't answer, but the intensity of the whispers grew louder, almost pleading. My gaze darted back to the envelope, and I tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper, brittle with age, covered in hurried handwriting. His name was Adam. He needs help. Don't let the darkness win. The truth will free him. My heart raced even faster. Adam. The boy had a name. I scanned the notes hastily scribbled below, desperate for more information, an address. And then, a final chilling line. Trust no one. I looked up, only to find the shadow advancing once more. It had grown darker, more defined, as if it fed off my fear. "I'm done being afraid," I shouted, holding the paper out like a shield. "You want the truth? I'll find it." But as the words left my mouth, the shadow surged forward. I braced myself, ready for a fight, but instead of attacking, it enveloped me like a cold fog. I gasped, feeling the weight of despair sweep into my lungs. Suddenly, a piercing cry rang out from the darkness, a voice so haunting and familiar. It was Adam, crying out in anguish. "Please," I heard him plead. My heart sank. I felt torn, caught between the urge to draw closer and the instinct to pull away. I had to make a choice, and time was running out. The shadows shifted, swirling faster, and I wondered if I truly could confront whatever force held Adam captive. That's when I remembered Claire's warning about the hospital's history. Old records, hidden behind locked doors, might detail the darkness that enveloped this place long before I arrived. I glanced at the paper, then back at the shadow. "I'll find you, Adam," I whispered, determination coursing through me. "I'll uncover the truth." As the shadow recoiled slightly, I pivoted and sprinted toward the back hallway, fueled by urgency. I didn't know what awaited me, but I couldn't turn back now. I had to find that truth and free him before it was too late. And just as I reached the end of the hallway, everything went dark. I stumbled forward, my heart pounding in my chest, breathless in the engulfing blackness. The shadows twisted around me, thick and suffocating. I reached out instinctively, fingers brushing the cold wall for guidance. My mind raced. I had to remember the address from the envelope. In the oppressive silence, I tried to focus on the words. The address was in the old part of the hospital, a section I had only ventured into once, and that was years ago. It had been abandoned, shrouded in rumors of curses and unspeakable things. Without a source of light, I felt my way down the narrow corridor. I blinked as the whispers returned, louder now, swirling like a cacophony of anguished voices. "Help him," they urged. "The truth will free him." I stopped when I reached what felt like a door. My hands shook as I turned the knob, and the creaking sound startled me. The previous tension hung in the air, but I pushed my fears aside and stepped inside. I fumbled for a light switch and flicked it on, wafts of dust rising in the sudden illumination. The room was filled with old medical equipment covered in sheets, like ghosts trapped in forgotten memories. I felt a chill creep down my spine, but somewhere within the chaos there were files stacked high across a tarnished desk. Pushing aside my unease, I moved closer, lunging for the files. I flipped one open, scanning the pages for anything that might connect to Adam. But the words blurred together, lost in the fog of my anxiety. Then, in small print, I caught a name that sent ice through my veins. Dr. Hawthorne. Claire had mentioned him in passing, a former doctor linked to strange experiments and hidden secrets. My breath quickened as I recalled her warnings. He was obsessed, she had said. Some say he dabbled in dark things. As I rifled through the files, one caught my eye. It had a name scrawled on the top. Adam Fisher. I could hardly believe it. Details rushed out like a flood. It spoke of tests, observations, terrible things done to the boy. My heart raced as I read about a project intended to tap into fear, harvest it like a fruit. "God, what did they do to you?" I murmured, clutching the paper like a lifeline. The shadow outside the door started to billow into the room, tremors of darkness pooling around my feet. I needed to act fast. There had to be something, some way to stop this horror. I scanned the desk and saw a small journal tucked beside the documents. I opened it, and the handwriting was frantic. It detailed experiments going wrong, but the last entry sent chills down my spine. The shadow feeds on fear. To sever the bond, you must confront it. Then the door slammed shut behind me. I whirled around, panic rising. I pressed my back against the desk, heart racing as the shadow filled the room, dark tendrils reaching for me. I had to resist the fear that threatened to engulf me. "Stop!" I shouted, holding the journal up like a shield against the shadow. "You won't take him." The darkness paused. For a split second I felt a shift, a hesitation. Then a sudden scream pierced the air. Adam's voice echoed in my ears, and everything around me began to tremble. I held my breath, realizing I didn't just have to face the darkness. I had to face the truth of what happened to Adam as well. As the shadow lunged, I felt the weight of resolve settle on my shoulders. I would confront whatever it was that haunted this place, whether it meant facing the shadow or uncovering every ugly truth buried in the hospital's past. And in that moment, I knew deep down that I was not just fighting for Adam. I was fighting for myself. I braced myself against the desk, the journal still clutched tightly in my hand. The shadow stretched forward, tendrils flicking out like fingers searching for something, or someone. I squeezed my eyes shut and focused on the journal, reciting the last line in my mind like a mantra. I had to confront it, too. "Fear can't hold me," I shouted, my voice breaking the suffocating silence. The room reverberated with the sound, sharp and defiant. The shadow recoiled slightly, as if my words had cut through its darkness. I had no plan beyond repeating those words. There was no spell, no incantation. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes, forcing myself to look into the swirling void. "You thrive on fear, but I won't give you that." The shadows froze mid-lunge, a shudder rippling through them. I could sense a change. Maybe it was confusion. Maybe the shadow had never encountered someone willing to fight back. My heart surged with a strange blend of terror and determination. Then, in the corner of my eye, I caught movement. A figure emerged from the darkness. A boy, pale and trembling. Adam. His eyes were wide and filled with pain, his voice barely a whisper. "Help me." I felt my chest tighten. This was what the whispers had meant, what I had come here for. But help meant more than just freeing him from this shadow. It meant uncovering the truth behind what had happened. "Adam!" I yelled, pushing away from the desk to reach for him. "I'm here. I'm gonna get you out." As I stepped forward, the shadow shifted again, more aggressive now, its darkness wrapped around my legs, pulling, tugging. "Leave him," it hissed, its voice a chilling echo. "He's mine." "No!" I yelled, squaring my shoulders. "He's not yours, and he never was." With that declaration, something shifted. The room vibrated. The files on the desk rattled. I shouted Adam's name, trying to bridge the space between us. The boy's face twisted in anguish, and suddenly the shadows surged, cascading towards me. I felt a surge of fear, but I fought against it. Instead, I thought of Claire, the times we laughed, how we would navigate our fears together. My love for Adam made me strong. I forged ahead through the murky darkness, battling the terror that clutched at my heart. The moment our hands met, light exploded in the room. The warmth surged through my fingers, illuminating not just us, but the entire space. I could see more now, furniture scattered, remnants of a past long abandoned, and the horrifying cages that held fragments of memory. Each one pulsed with the weight of anguish, but the shadow began to recede, hissing and flailing against the light. "That's it, Adam," I encouraged, squeezing his hand tighter. "We're breaking free." I felt Adam's grip strengthen as he focused on the shadows, the fear that had tormented him, the truth that had kept him trapped. His small voice broke free, louder now, declaring, "You can't keep us." Suddenly, a wave of energy surged from him, rippling through the hospital like a shockwave. The shadows shrieked and dissipated, swirling away into the corners of the room. But as the light faded to a dim glow, I realized the game wasn't over. A figure loomed behind us, someone I hadn't seen before. My breath caught in my throat. "I see you found my little experiment," a voice murmured, smooth and cold. I turned slowly, dread filling every corner of my being. Who was this? What other secrets lay hidden in the depths of this place? One thing was clear. We had only just begun. The figure stepped into the light, and I could see him clearly now. He looked young, maybe in his 20s, with dark hair and an unsettling calmness about him. His eyes seemed to shimmer with a mix of amusement and something darker. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice smooth like ice. "Who are you?" I forced the words out, trying to keep my voice steady, but my heart raced. Adam flinched beside me, pressing closer, his presence grounding me even as the fear threatened to weigh me down again. "Just a curious mind," he replied. "I like to play with the boundaries of reality, you see." He gestured around the room with an easy grace. "What you just witnessed? A simple game of fear and resolve." "Fear is not a game," I shot back, trying to sound braver than I felt. "You're keeping him here." His smile widened, a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Ah, but you misunderstand. Adam is more a part of this place than you realize." He stepped closer, now just a few feet away. "He was supposed to break. His darkness was too heavy, and I feared you might fail. But here you are." Adam trembled beside me, and I squeezed his hand tighter. "I won't let you take him," I said defiantly. The man's gaze flickered to Adam, his expression morphing into a mask of mock sympathy. "Such loyalty. It's touching. But you don't know what he's capable of, what I've unlocked within him." "What do you mean?" I demanded, my mind racing. What had this monster done to him? The shadows may have dissipated, but I could feel a cold tension in the air, one that promised more danger. Instead of answering, he waved his hand casually. Shadows began to creep back into the corners of the room, swirling like a storm just on the horizon. "You're making this so much more interesting," he mused. "But if you want him, you'll have to play my game." "That's not going to happen," I said firmly, but uncertainty gnawed at me. How could I save Adam from someone like this? I felt the room closing in around us, the remnants of the fear I had just conquered whispering back to life. "Very well," he said, the corners of his mouth twitching as if he enjoyed my struggle. "But know this, in every game, a sacrifice must be made." Before I could respond, he snapped his fingers, and the walls quaked. A cacophony of whispers flooded the space, shadows stretching toward Adam, and my stomach dropped. "No!" I screamed, lunging forward just as Adam started to fade into the darkness again. "Adam!" I cried, reaching out, but he was slipping away, pulled into that familiar void, his terrified eyes locking onto mine. I had to act fast. "I won't lose you again," I shouted, feeling the energy surge within me, the spark of hope igniting in my chest. If love had brought light once before, maybe it could do so again. I focused on the warmth of our bond, pouring all my energy into the connection we shared. "Stay with me," I begged, the shadows rushing to envelope him. The man watched, a glint of intrigue in his eyes. Then everything went dark. I felt the ground shift beneath me, and the whispers grew louder, overwhelming my thoughts. "Sacrifice," the voice echoed, mocking and chilling. Desperation clawed at my throat. I refused to give in. I had to find Adam and bring him back. But what price would I pay to do so? I awoke once more, but this time the atmosphere was different, palpable and heavy, like a thick fog pressing down on me. The whispers that had once filled the air were now subdued, just a low hum in the background, allowing clarity to pierce through. I found myself alone, standing in a darkened room that looked eerily familiar, the old, forgotten part of the hospital that I had only read about. The temperature dropped, the air chilling my skin as the memories flooded back. I had failed to save him. My heart raced, pounding against my chest as I frantically searched the darkness for any sign of Adam. I needed to find him. I had to make it right. The fear of losing him again became fuel, igniting a fierce determination within. "Adam!" I called out, my voice trembling yet strong. Silence hung around me, an unsettling blanket that only deepened my resolve. I stepped forward, clutching the now familiar teddy bear in my hands, hoping he could sense I was there. "Help. Me," came a whisper from the shadows, drawing my attention like a magnet. I raced toward the sound, desperation clawing at my insides. "Where are you?" "Stay away from him," came an echo, deeper and more sinister than before. The shadows shifted ominously, swirling and thickening as if protecting a greater power. "Adam!" I shouted again, my heart aching for his presence, the warmth of his laughter that had once filled the halls. "I'm here. I won't let him take you." With that proclamation, I felt the shadows recoil, hesitating momentarily as if my determination was a disruption in their sinister dance. It struck me that maybe they weren't just amorphous darkness. They were manifestations of fear, threats that thrived on the despair of vulnerable souls. Yes, I thought fiercely, I would confront them. Maybe this was the sacrifice the man had spoken of. The choice was not whether I would lose myself, but whether I'd step forward into the light for Adam. The room trembled. I needed the light. I needed to find that flicker buried beneath the shadows. With every ounce of courage I had, I closed my eyes and focused on Adam's essence. Our bond surged through me, an unbreakable tether. "Whatever you are, show yourself," I screamed into the vile darkness, my voice echoing with defiance. "You won't suffocate our light. Not today." The shadows writhed, twisting violently as if resisting my resolve. I dared to open my eyes, gritting my teeth against the onslaught of cold swirling around my limbs. In that moment of clarity, I glimpsed not just Adam, but a flicker of light beyond the darkened abyss. The figure of the young man from before reappeared, a smirk tracing his lips like a predator relishing his prey. "You're strong, but can you endure?" His voice had an edge, teasing, as if hell-bent on fraying the limits of my endurance. "Endure?" I repeated, my confidence steadily building. "I'll endure for him." Before I could think twice, I moved forward toward the light, ignoring the dark fingers reaching for me. But the shadow retaliated, swirling more violently now, becoming an almost tangible force. "You can't win!" The man laughed, his voice echoing around me, taunting. But what he didn't understand was that fear had lost its grasp on me. "No!" I shouted, my voice steady, fierce. "You don't get to dictate who wins or loses." As if responding to my defiance, the darkness writhed, pulsating at my feet. In the distance, I could hear Adam's voice, faint but unwavering. "Don't leave me." "I'm coming," I screamed, rushing forward. Focusing on the light again, I took another bold step. "I choose him over your darkness." The shadows surged, drawing closer, but it only made me more resolute. I thought of the love that bonded us, the moments we could still seize beyond this place. My spirit soared. I was guided by the hope that radiated from our hearts. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, as the room erupted in light, consuming the darkness around me. Strangely enough, I felt warmth envelop my fingers, like Adam's hand slipped into mine. "Hold on!" I cried, and just like that the shadows dimmed, retreating into the corners of the room. I could feel him beside me, our hands clasping tightly. "I believe," I uttered, and with that belief surged the power of every bond I had ever forged, the love, the laughter, the moments we cherished that transcended fear. With a final roar, I felt the darkness fracture around us, a howling wind screaming as it succumbed to the blinding light. When I opened my eyes again, we were no longer in that forgotten space. I gasped, stepping onto solid ground with Adam beside me. The haunting shadows dissipated. We were back in the children's ward, where sunlight beamed through the windows, an inviting warmth enveloping us both. Yet the lingering echoes remained, whispers of other shadows that waited. I knew then that our battle was not over. We had escaped, but the question loomed heavy in the air. What other truths and darker foes awaited us beyond those walls? "We did it," Adam said, looking at me with bright eyes and that familiar smile etched on his face. But beneath his joy, I could see a hint of unease. "Yes," I replied softly, still holding tight to his hand. "But we have more to uncover. The truth will continue to find us." As the last remnants of darkness fled, I glanced back at the hospital, knowing I would have to face it again. I might have survived, but the lasting question remained. Was the evil rooted deep beneath that place something I could truly escape from? Or was it only the beginning? Only time would tell. But as I walked alongside Adam, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let fear define us any longer. I'd fight for him, for us, and together we would shine light onto whatever shadows were left waiting.